Have you ever pondered who shakes the jar in our society? Intriguing, isn't it? But before we dive into the depths of this question, let's explore an interesting analogy. Picture this: 100 black ants and 100 red ants living harmoniously in a glass jar. No conflict, no discord, just peaceful coexistence. But what happens when the jar is violently shaken? Suddenly the ants begin to attack one another, each color perceiving the other as the enemy. But who is the real enemy here? The ants or the one who shook the jar? This analogy, my friends, is a mirror reflecting the dynamics of our society. Our world, akin to the jar, is filled with diverse groups coexisting, men and women, rich and poor, left and right, faith and science. But once the jar, our world, is shaken, conflicts arise, and we start perceiving the other as the enemy. The harmony is disrupted and the blame game begins. But the question remains, who shook the jar? Gossip, rumors, misinformation, all these are forms of shaking the jar. They instigate conflict, fuel discord, and turn us against each other. We become so engrossed in fighting one another that we forget to question who or what instigated the conflict in the first place. We never stop to ask, who shook the jar? Much like the ants, we often fail to realize that our real enemy isn't the one who looks different, thinks differently, or lives differently. The true enemy is the force that incites us to fight against each other, the one that disrupts our harmony, the one that shakes the jar. In this video, we've unraveled the ants in the jar analogy, a reflection of our society's dynamics. We've explored how external forces, like rumors and misinformation, can instigate conflict and turn us against each other. We've pondered over the crucial question, who shakes the jar in our society? So the next time you find yourself in a conflict, remember the ants in the jar. Before you take sides, before you perceive the other as the enemy, stop and ask yourself, who shook the jar?